It was the number one thing that Kirby Smart talked about today, the Monday after Georgia's win over Tennessee, the status of the injuries on the team, but really very specifically on the offensive line. Why did Georgia's offensive line seemingly play better against the Vols than they did against Ole Miss? And it was something that Kirby talked about, and he's talked about it a lot. The circumstances were different in multiple ways. First of all, they did play from behind against the Vols. This was not the same sort of setting. They were able to execute snap count stuff. Carson did a very good job of that, but more than anything, they were healthy. I mean, Ernest Green, obviously, I think now we can say was not healthy when Georgia played Ole Miss. Not to the degree that he could have, that they would ideally have him at left tackle. When your left arm is messed up, of course, that's one of your extremities, and the part where you're trying to push guys towards sometimes. So when Ernest Green went out, here comes Monroe Freeling in from Charleston, and Tate Ratledge was, I would say, quite noticeably healthier because he was playing more downs. Georgia just didn't rotate Saturday night either. So what happened then? Well, they protected Carson Beck a lot better. I mean, I don't think you got to be a football expert to see that Carson Beck had a lot more time Saturday night than he did in Oxford. And that was not good for Tennessee. I mean, Carson had one of his better performances of the year. And for all of the grief and drama and sort of, I don't understand. I got to say, this is going to be about Carson right now. And I really think people overdo it about Carson Beck a lot. He is the most disliked person that I've heard that's a Georgia player on the road in a long time, like singularly disliked by the other team and fans and so forth. But Georgia fans are always difficult and rough to their quarterbacks. They, I think, personally, are more difficult towards Carson than is necessary. Well, that's not even the right way to put it, because they're always more difficult than necessary. But in the case of Carson, it seems like for what he has done, like Aaron Murray got it pretty bad. He never got it this bad for what he was doing. I mean, I don't know. I think it's so overblown and so forth. And the fact of the matter is that Carson has been having a lot of burden on him. Not just when the ball is snapped, but before that too. And I think people have just overdone that to the degree that they think the guy is not good. No, he's very good. He showed that Saturday night, and he showed that at other times during the season. I think the big thing for Carson is when you cannot let these guys that are that good hang out and just do whatever. And right now, he's had, not right now, but against Tennessee, he had more capability to do that. My imagination is that against Massachusetts, that will be the case, and that will see that against Georgia Tech. Georgia today, I saw, and I'll do a video on this later, opened up as almost a 3-touchdown favorite over Georgia Tech. That was a little higher, by about half a score than I thought it would be. But if Georgia's got the offensive line together, and they're still going to be bringing back Ernest Green, they're still going to be bringing back Micah Morris, Etienne is going to be back, Kirby, Etienne may be back this week. We'll see. Dylan Bell looks like a not super serious ankle injury, so we'll just see when he gets back. But he didn't play half that game, and Georgia still scored pretty effectively in the second half. Thought it was a good performance from the offense, but it was because the offensive line was more consistent with its play. Why was it more consistent with its play? And there's always multiple reasons. Why do you shoot well in basketball? Do you like a gym more? Do you, is it easier to see the rim? Stuff like that. Why did they play better? Was it because they were at home? I think that definitely had something to do with it. Was it because Tennessee's front is different than the way, specifically Ole Miss or say South Carolina, the way those teams attack? I know Georgia's not played South Carolina. I'm just saying that, the way you match up matters too, particularly for Tennessee as it relates to Georgia. I think it's not a great matchup for Tennessee. Their offense versus Georgia's defense is not a great matchup. it just doesn't seem that way, and that's the way it's been. But if Georgia continues with the offensive line play that I saw Saturday night, there's a reason why people expect them to be in the semifinals and beyond in college football playoff. This is going to be a little bit longer video, so just sort of hang in there with me. First of all, I will be at Red Zone Friday, okay, and I'll be there Friday afternoon for the UMass game. So if you're in town early, it's got a 1 o'clock kickoff. I want to make sure y'all know for the Tech game, Friday, Black Friday, they will be open at 10. They will be open at 10 for that 7:30 kick. They will be open this Saturday after, the day after the game with Tech as well. So make sure you're getting there. Scott and Mindy, say hello to them. Mindy's almost always at the door, sitting at that red chair. So make sure that you're going down to Red Zone. Again, I'll be there Friday. But I want to talk about this because Ryan and I will be on tomorrow night, but I don't know what's yet happening with the college football playoff rankings, and we will be reacting to it tomorrow night live, as we live to video, I guess you could say. What will the explanation be for moving Georgia? I mean, obviously Georgia's going to move up. The question is how high. And I talked to someone today at Georgia, and I'm not, I don't do names, but I mean, their expectation was that this was a week where the college football committee had the opportunity to correct some stuff. And we're going to see. And we're going to see. I mean, they do have this moment in time, this 10-day stretch, well, 8-day in this case, where they have the ability to say, we got Penn State and Indiana too high. Or they can send Ohio State to the back of the line. Something's going to happen here where Ohio State has 2 losses and no real win. I mean, if you want to call Penn State a win, and then you've got, the curious part is that everybody in the SEC is playing everybody. And now it's turning out that the only team in the Big Ten that's doing that is Ohio State. That's it. Oregon's not playing Penn State. They're not playing Indiana. Indiana's not played anybody. So this could be a moment where when you look at, this is something that Chris Felissa, the Bear over at Fox, put out today, and he's right. In the top 20, there's one team that's got 3 wins that are top 20 wins in the AP poll, and probably will be tomorrow at the college football playoff, and that's Georgia. The rest of the top 5 has 3 combined. So these are not the same thing at all. One is not like the other. So when you watch Wade Manuel or Ward Manuel, I'm not sure the AD at Michigan's name, but when you listen to the foolishness that the explanation for dropping Georgia from 3 to out was the Georgia offense, does this now mean that they jump everybody except, they go in front of Texas? I don't know. They don't know what they're doing. Okay? Can we just say that? They're going to get Georgia in. I'm just saying they don't know what they're doing. I'm not going to make excuses for the college football playoff committee not knowing what they're doing. I'm saying that to you. They don't know what they're doing. They haven't known what they were doing. Now they have an opportunity to adjust some stuff. Now, you still have some kind of nutball games coming up. What do I mean by that? You got Ole Miss at Florida. You've got Penn State at Minnesota. Minnesota is not a good team. North Carolina beat Minnesota up there. So kind of relax a little bit. But I believe that game is on the road. You don't know. You've got Texas A&M going to Auburn, only a 2.5-point favorite. They're only a 2.5-point favorite. That's crazy. So that's this weekend. You've got perhaps some pearl clutching this weekend going on. But again, Georgia has Tech left, and that's it. I don't want to hear about UMass, Kirby. That's your problem. That's not our problem. That's not the fans' problem. And I don't need people in the comments talking about I need to focus on it. No. I don't get paid to focus on it. That's y'all's deal. That's y'all's deal. My job is to talk about what people want to talk about, which is not the Massachusetts game, okay? They want to know about what the future is. And the future in this case, okay, is what happens if and when Georgia beats Georgia Tech. That will only be set up by what happens tomorrow night. So tomorrow night is a really important college football playoff committee ranking. It will let them correct some things. You can't really say that Georgia is better than Tennessee any more than you can say that Alabama is better than Georgia or that Tennessee is better than Alabama. And okay, so why can I say that? They've done a round robin, guys. Everybody's won on their home field. This is not a best of three. There's not, the 97 finals, and you got to go to you got to go to Utah or something. Like, that's not what's happening here. We've only got what we've got. And it may come down to why Georgia is in the best position is a couple of things. First of all, of the SEC schools. First of all, they don't play any more SEC games. They're done. I think they're the only team in the conference that's in that situation, although I'm sure LSU would have liked for their season to end a while ago. Georgia is done. They have 2 losses, and neither of them are bad. You've got the Ole Miss on the road and the Alabama on the road, okay? Then you've got Tennessee. Tennessee has a road loss to Georgia and a road loss to Arkansas. Alabama, they have the road loss to Vanderbilt and a road loss to Tennessee. Well, if the wins are not the same, so who are Alabama's best wins? Okay, right now it's Georgia, and I don't know what their second best win is. Probably South Carolina, okay, because I think that's a better win than LSU. But Alabama has collectively, I would say, 3 good wins. They don't have better wins than Georgia, but they have 3 good wins. Georgia's best 2 wins, of course, are Texas. Well, Georgia probably has 3 better wins than Alabama. They're just not all in the SEC, and I'm concerned about the future of Clemson, just for the record. So I would say, as it relates to Georgia, you've got the Texas win. Texas has not got a good win right now. Okay, we got to call it like we see it. Texas does not have a good win. They didn't play well at Vanderbilt. They didn't play well at Arkansas. I mean, Texas could eat a loss here at the end. I don't think they will, but they could. They didn't play well against Georgia. They played well against Florida. There's no doubt about that. But and then you look at Tennessee, and you're like, so Georgia's got Clemson, Tennessee, Texas. They had to win against Tennessee. They're in if they beat Tech. So that's just kind of where we're at. For Tennessee, for Ole Miss, Ole Miss got a bad loss. Ole Miss, you could argue, has the worst loss because it's to Kentucky, who is in last place to second last place at home. Okay? They got a good win over Georgia. So does Alabama. I'm not like putting Ole Miss down or anything like that. They better watch it this week at the Swamp. So I think Ole Miss wins that game. But I'm just saying they're going to have to play well because Florida's playing better, clearly, non-Texas category. So when you start looking at those 4 teams, well, really, there are, these teams are still alive in the SEC to play in the playoff. Very directly, Texas A&M, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and the Rebels. So you got 6 teams. The team that is best positioned currently is Texas A&M. We will see if that's the case in a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, if the favorites win, Georgia and Texas will have the best resumes. The problem for Georgia is that they will have lost to Alabama, who is also a 2-loss with them. The problem for Georgia is they will have lost to Ole Miss, who has a 2-loss. But once you start clumping everybody together, and you've got 2-loss Tennessee, 2-loss Alabama, 2-loss Ole Miss, 2-loss Georgia, then you can't just say, oh, this is a Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss thing. It's a Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee thing with dogs too. So it's 4, and then Georgia has the better resume of the 4. So I think the talking class notion until tomorrow night is Tennessee is on the out. We will see if that continues. I would be concerned if I were Ole Miss because I still have to play the Gators on the road. A. B, the Georgia win will get further and further away from them, and that like momentum or whatever it was that they only, I think they're only they're only a slot in front of Georgia. Georgia just beat number 7. So does everybody just move up and Georgia stays behind Alabama and Ole Miss? With this group, probably, because they're morons. But, I think there's got to be there's got to be at some stage here from the committee Miami's going to have to drop. I think they can correct that now. One way they can correct that is by jumping Georgia past Miami and past, Penn State in theory, and leaving Alabama and Ole Miss behind them so that Alabama and Ole Miss can come up after they play SEC games. I think and that's how you sort of start reshuffling the deck. But you can't reshuffle the deck for Georgia, in the future when they're playing UMass and Tech. Now, so I think my suspicion is you're going to see a few things happen. Obviously, BYU, but BYU doesn't matter. They do not matter to the SEC schools. That's a spot that's taken, okay? That doesn't matter. It just moves, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee closer to the one spot. But if you're left out, you're left out. So BYU will be backwards. Miami will be backwards. But both of those won't matter unless Boise jumps them, which is very possible to probable from this point forward. If it seems like a jumbled up mess, that's because it is. If it seems like it doesn't have a lot of logic, that's because the people who have given us this are not doing a very good job of explaining what their rationale is. So my suspicion is they're going to juggle some things this week to set up these next 2 weeks of football, okay? 3 weeks of football, excuse me. That will give them the ability to save themselves if there are no upsets. That will give them the ability to say, okay, and I do not think that 10-3 Alabama, if they lose in the SEC championship game, I do not think they get left out. I don't. And I think that would be wrong. I think Tennessee being left out would be wrong. I'm not as sure I think Ole Miss being left out is wrong, but it's wrong adjacent if you had Indiana in. I'll tell you that right now. So all that said, if Georgia, let's just say they put up whatever against them, and then they put up 45 or 50 against Tech, that will be, the committee will just start saying, oh, well, this is our excuse to put Georgia higher and higher. I think Georgia thinks my suspicion is Georgia thinks they're going to host. I'm not there with them yet, but I'm not saying that won't happen either. So, we got a long way to go here. I think there's probably about 150 football games to go between now and not 150. That's not quite right. But it's over 100. There are over 100 football games to be played these next 2 weeks, and then you've got the 6 or 7 championship games. Those will have the biggest effect on the playoff itself because those will tell you who's going to get buys and all these things. If Georgia continues to play the way they did against Tennessee, they will probably host. But we're not quite there yet. And I will say as well, if they play like that, Carson Beck's going to have a heck of a close to the season. You cannot give that guy time. You cannot give that guy time. He is real trouble with time. We saw that last year. And so they were a little too loosey-goosey with the ball for me in this game. You saw back-to-back. I don't know if it was back-to-back, but they were coming at us. When Dylan Bell fumbled the ball, Arian Smith fumbled the ball. I mean, you're too loosey-goosey with the ball. So that wasn't great. But, if Georgia buttons it up a little bit more, if they have then 7 offensive linemen that they can depend on and not just 5, or rotating like 9 guys to try to figure it out, if they can hone in on what they want, if you get ETN back, if you get Bell back, which I would imagine Bell will be back, but if you start adding people, you start adding Smile Munden, this is a very different conversation 5 weeks from now. See? A very different conversation 5 weeks from now. And 5 weeks from now is the start of the college football playoff, okay? Georgia may play one legitimate game in that 5 weeks. They may. They may play 2. If you play that second one, you need to win it. Now, I don't think Georgia gets left out if they don't win the SEC championship if they play in it. But I think the reason why you're so desperate to win that game is you're avoiding the stupidity of it all. If you lose that game, whoever loses the SEC championship game probably is on the road at this stage with the way things are lining up with Notre Dame and all this stuff. Also, do they jump Georgia over Notre Dame? If they jump Georgia over Notre Dame, then they give themselves play with the Notre Dame Army game or the SC Notre Dame. I mean, so there's some things they can still bullshit this a little bit. They've got time and space, but boy, it looks bad from the start. I'm going to tell you that right now. I said it from the start. It looks bad. But I said that in 21. In 22, I thought they might put Tennessee at the 1. I didn't think that was so horrific. I thought it was wrong. But, I mean, having Georgia at the 3, they have mischaracterized Georgia a lot in the College Football Playoff Committee through the years. Okay? They have mischaracterized them a lot. In 21, they did not. They had them as the 1. They were the 1. They wound up the 1. I think they're the last number 1. They are the last number 1 to go on to win the national championship from the initial seedings. That's not the point of the seedings. I get it. Keep the comments to yourselves down below. But I think we got a long way to go here. There are 100+ games to go. There are a lot of important ones. Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State at Minnesota, Army, Notre Dame SC, Georgia Tech. I mean, there's a lot of important games still left to be played. Thanks for watching.